One thing that people are concerned about before making a move abroad is what will happen to the friendships I have back at home. Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you my experience with that after 6 years, how I handle that, and how I have built and continue to build a community here in France. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're new here, welcome. If you enjoy content about moving abroad, life in France, or finding the confidence and courage to live life on your terms, this is your channel. Be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell. I am Patricia Brooks, and almost 6 years ago, I quit my job in Richmond, Virginia as a project manager, and I moved to the south of France, something that was quite out of character for me. And in preparing for making my move abroad, one of the things that was less of a concern for me than it is for some people was, well, what's going to happen with the close friends and family that I am moving away from? And one of the reasons I think it wasn't such a big concern for me was because a couple of my close friends lived miles away from me, states away from me, and we managed to stay connected very well over the course of many, many years. So I have had experience with that long distance friendships. But the other piece of that was that both of my parents had passed, and my mom and I grew really close toward the end. And so she was my best friend then. So I wasn't leaving her. She was no longer there. And so I felt freer to be able to move to France. But having said that, now that I am in France, I have two very dear people who are close friends of mine. So close, in fact, that I consider them family. But it wasn't always this way. And they lived only 2 miles down the road from where I used to live in Richmond. And we were friendly. We were friends, but we didn't hang out together. It was more of a work relationship. I was in a direct sales organization, and she was my director. And so I knew her in that way. So we weren't really close friends. She was not somebody I was afraid I would lose contact with. But something really interesting happened since I moved 4,000 miles away from her and her husband, is that we are now very, very close friends. As I said, we consider each other family. So how did that happen? Why didn't this happen when I was just 2 miles down the road? It's interesting because I think that our connection started to build the day before I moved to France. Really started to grow a little bit deeper than it had been for all the years I'd known her, since, 2000 or so. And it's because I had done everything I needed to do to make my move to France. My house was empty. There was no place for me to sleep, no bed to lie in the night before I moved to France. And she and her husband opened their home to me and said, well, why don't you come stay with us and we'll give you a good send-off. And that's what I did. It was not something that I had asked for, but they saw that I needed something and they stepped in and helped me. And I was so grateful because that night before I got on the plane, I was a basket case. I wanted to make this move to France so badly. And yet my nerves were all over the place the night before. So much so that Wayne, my friend Wayne, told me that you are nutting up. And this is an expression he uses when somebody is kind of going a little crazy. And so the night before, he prepared me a bourbon. He loves his bourbon, as do I. And he prepared me a glass of bourbon. He gave that to me, and that just took the edge off. And I could just relax in that lazy boy chair and just say, I've done all I can do. Tomorrow's the big day. I'm going to enjoy this time with these friends of mine, right? That was the beginning of this deeper connection. So each year when I would go back, and I went back to the States a couple of times to deal with administrative tasks. The first year I thought I had to go back to renew my visa. I'm not really sure that was the case. The second year I went back because I had some unfinished business with a storage shed that I needed to close out and stop throwing money out the window on. And each time they welcomed me into their home. right? And for me, going back to the States, I would stay no less than 2 weeks and typically 3 or 4 weeks so that I could take care of everything I needed to take care of. And for me, to stay in somebody else's home for that length of time felt like I was impinging on their space. Because I remember when I was a child, my mom would say when she had friends who had visitors, house guests that would overstay their welcome, she would always say, after 3 days, fish and house guests stink. And so that was something that I believed. And so to stay in somebody's home for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks felt really hard, but I didn't have another place to stay. Of course, I could have stayed in a hotel, but that would have been a little bit pricey. And so since I knew them, was getting to know them, I'd stay with them. And that is where our relationship developed and blossomed. After I had made my move to France, our connection deepened. And they are the reason I go back to the States now. I look forward to going back to the States so that I can see them. It's something that I cherish and look forward to those visits. So it's kind of a backwards kind of story for me that I moved all the way to France from Richmond, and I have a relationship that is deeper than it ever was when I was in the United States. But sometimes you do have some really close friends or family that you want to stay connected with. And one of the things that I recommend to my clients is that if they have certain people they want to make sure their relationship stays strong, that they need to craft a plan before they make that move abroad. They need to talk with their friends, talk with their families and say, hey, I am still going to be here. I'm just going to be a little further away. How is it that we can continue to meet and share in each other's lives when I am at a distance? And then create a plan so that both parties have a say in it, both parties are happy with it, and then you can nurture your relationship from afar. And that has helped me with my relationship with Wayne and Ruth, because in the beginning, we didn't have Zoom calls every month, but maybe 2.5 years ago, we started this tradition so that we can catch up on things and really connect and see what's going on in each other's lives. And I have to tell you, those Sundays are Sundays I really look forward to. So relationships don't have to dwindle away once you make a move abroad, especially if you are proactive in keeping them alive. Now, I know that I had friends that I worked with for 5 years that when I left the United States, I thought we would stay connected, at least loosely. Those relationships, most of them, if not all, have gone by the wayside. And as I look back and I think about that, that seems to be the tendency. If you don't have work in common, sometimes that's the thing that holds the relationship together. And I've gotten to be okay with that. I think about what Louise Hay says about people and people in our lives and relationships. She said something to the effect of, people come into our lives for a period of time. We cherish that time together. And then when that time is over, I lovingly let them go. And that's something that helps me to think about relationships that I no longer have that I had when I was in the States and that didn't survive this move abroad. I think it's important to come to terms with the fact that that happens. I look back to friends I had when I was working for a company way back in 2000, and both teams I was on in that company, we were tight. We were like this. And now there's one person that from time to time I will get a message from on WhatsApp or a picture of his grandson. But other than that, those relationships that meant so much to me those years ago, they don't exist anymore. And I think that is a fact of life. Now, so that is on the side of friends back at home. Now, looking toward how I have built a community here. When I first got here, I knew that I would have to work at this because I have introvert tendencies. And so I came and hit the ground running. The first activity I did was a laughter yoga class, and I kept going back to that because it was weird, but I really enjoyed it. To stand around or be in a room of people you don't know and just laugh and act like children and, do that while looking at each other in the eyes felt really weird, but it was really a good experience for me. And so that's why I went back. Well, the teacher of that, the instructor of that, she and I became friends. And we were friends, I guess, for my first 3 years here. But then once I moved out of the city, then that relationship kind of dwindled. I think COVID had a little bit to do with that as well. But I did activities such as that to meet people and make friendships. And in the beginning, I did it and I was kind of forcing myself to do things that I wasn't necessarily interested in doing, or maybe hang around people that really weren't my people, just so that I could say I had friends or that I had something to do or wasn't alone. Now I am really strong in my desire to be around people who are more like-minded, who are on the same wavelength. So I probably could have more friends, more acquaintances here in France if that weren't that important to me, but it is. And so I have a select number of friends. And one of them, Jordy, I met him through a meditation center, and we are still friends to this day. In fact, he was a lifesaver when I was moving from Perpignan to the village I'm in now, and I was going to be gone for about 6 weeks and needed some place to store the things that I had accumulated in that first year. And I asked him if there were storage facilities here in France, and he says, yeah, they exist. We don't have that many, but they exist. And I was considering getting one of those for my things. And he said, oh, no, don't bother doing that. I have a basement in my apartment building. You can store your stuff there. And when you come back, I'll, bring them to your new apartment. And I thought, oh, wow, after a year's time, I have somebody who I really feel like I can count on. And so that's how it happened, right? I think he reached out to me because my book was on display in the meditation center. And he reached out to me, we connected, had coffee, and the rest is history. So that's one of the ways that I made connections. But I have to say that it has taken some time for me to really feel connected in this community. I think for a number of reasons. There are expats here, more British than American, so there is not really an American expat community there would be natural connections or tendencies to gravitate toward. But also because what I've heard is that I'm in Catalan country, and even French people who move here say that they've had difficulties to make inroads and become a part of the community. It's taken them years to do that, even as French people, for whatever reason that is. And so I think that has been a part of my experience here. But now I feel really connected. I feel like I know a lot of people here. A lot of people know me here and are happy to see me when I'm walking through the streets. In fact, I take a morning walk every morning, and I will go up through the foothills and then down through the town. And over the last 2 or 3 months, I have noticed that I see no less than 3 people I know. And I will run into them and I'll stop and I'll chat with them for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes. And it feels really rewarding. But it's one thing that I have to remember to add in an extra 15 minutes on my morning walk so that I can enjoy this time, because I have a tendency to want to get back home so I can get the work I need to get done. But the reason that I'm here is so that I can experience this culture and the people here and really soak that up. And so I remind myself of that as I run into the people I know. And it's a really amazing feeling to feel like I've come this far. As I said, it's taken me a little while, but it is happening. I think another reason that it may have taken so long for me is I did not have a natural community in going to a job. Like if you have a job, you're going to go in and you're going to meet certain people, and those certain people are going to become your friends, whether it's work friends or maybe sometimes you go for a drink after work, but you still have that community. That was not something that I had here because, first of all, I didn't come and start working. Second of all, when I did start working, I started working for myself. So I didn't have that built-in community. So I think that if you're coming for work, that could be easier for you. So that's been my experience with my friends back at home, with my new friends here in France. What surprises you most about my story? Let me know in the comments. Now, if you're considering uprooting your life and starting all over in a foreign country, and you're a little bit concerned about how you're going to get it all done or if it's even possible for you, I would love to have a conversation with you. Want to find out, where did you want to move and why, and what are the things that you find the most challenging? And if our working together could help you make the move more seamlessly. Now, if that sounds like something that might be of help to you, be sure to click the link to my calendar, which is in the description, so you can find a time that works for you and we can talk about that and move your dreams of living abroad forward faster. Now, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, share it with friends, be sure to subscribe if you haven't, and check out these videos here because I know you're going to like them. That is all I have for you today. I will see you again next time. Bye for now.